Hey guys, this is Al again. It's Sunday, 3rd of July. It's a whopping 38 degrees outside today. Probably more inside this building, so I'm going to be coming in and out of the office, which is air conditioned. I've got the 300SEL racked up right now, so I'm going to put it up in the air and just do a quick underbody inspection. I don't know whether you guys noticed there was a rattling sound, like a metallic sound when the engine was running. The last time I had the car running, I think that the fan is rubbing up against the radiator, which is why you're hearing that sound. But we'll put it up in the air, we'll take a look at everything and make an assessment. I also noticed that the generator light was on, so I'll put a multimeter on the battery and see if we're getting good voltage coming back enough to charge it. So let's get it up in the air. Got the flashlight over here, so you see they've got a 2x4 strategically located. Yeah, there you go. They've got a 2x4 strategically located over here. The airbags look like they're pretty rotten. They've got another piece of wood jammed up between the control arm and the bellow. So that's obviously how this car is suspended and why the air suspension isn't all the way down. The height control valves are connected, but they're not doing anything. So maybe if we air them up, they will. I can try to do that. Oh, look at that. There's your drag link. That definitely needs replacing for obvious reasons. This side, the suspension rod is connected. The airbags are really dry rotted, and again you've got this mangled up piece of 2x4 right there, which is basically, let's put that back where it's supposed to be. Subframe mounts are completely shot. You see that? See that? Subframe mounts are completely shot. I expect the other side's going to be the same. Let's take a look. Yeah, there's no subframe mounts. Engine mount looks like it's collapsed as well. Can you see that over there? So it's going to need a bunch of suspension stuff. The problem right now that we're having is every time I look for parts on these things, like the suspension bellows are just no longer available, and subframe mounts you can still get Phoebe, which is positive, but what I've seen as far as engine and transmission mounts, the only thing I've seen that's available is URO parts. Now, URO is generally not that great a quality. I've had terrible experience with them, where I put a flex disc on a 560 SEL, and after about 11 months it just basically came apart. Took the back of the transmission housing out with it, set the airbags off. It was a complete disaster. I mean, it totaled the car. So I'm really reluctant to use URO parts if I can avoid them, but I may not be able to avoid them, so we'll see. Sway bar rubber is not great shape. That shouldn't be too hard to fix. I'm guessing that there's some rust down there. That's why it looks this way. Not sure though. At least we have the inner fenders aren't rusted away to where they're separating from the car. That can sometimes happen on these 108s, where the inner fenders start rusting because water collects on the inside, you know, right here, and then when you pick the car up it starts to separate. So this one's good in that sense. Floor pan, aside from the old dings from being you know, an air suspension car that generally, you know, has air suspension problems, is actually in pretty good shape. There's no real rust. I'm guessing the transmission mount is collapsed, but I can't really tell. It's got an aftermarket fuel pump, but it seems to be doing the job. It looks like just a regular Bosch CIS fuel pump. I don't see a fuel filter, so that's gonna need to be addressed. So the rubber bellows again shot. This is kind of annoying, so I'm gonna have to fix that. I did look online to see what a replacement rear panel costs, and it costs King's ransom like $1,300, so I'm gonna have to fix this, which is fine. It's been repainted anyway. You can see that there's paint all over the exhaust, but those bottom pieces are intact, which is something to be said. Well, not that intact, but yeah, they're intact. They're not bad. I mean, this is just rubberized undercoating, but underneath I think maybe we need to play it up a little bit, but not too bad. Well, those belts don't look right, so I'm going to order a new set of belts. But I'm guessing the fan is rubbing up against the radiator. That needs to be fixed, obviously. The electric windows don't work. The driver's side door just came off in my hand, and it obviously doesn't work, but I'm glad that it came off because I can now open the door without the door handle. I've got to figure out what's going on with that. It's probably just, I mean, the door handle's fine, you know, opens and closes, so it's probably just this piece over here that needs either adjusting or something else like that. So I'll figure that out, figure out what the deal is with that. Alright guys, so I've got the car back on the ground again. I was doing a little bit of diagnostics. Doesn't seem like the battery's getting any kind of voltage charging actually from that alternator, so I think the alternator may be bad. It's roughly around 12.6, 12.7 volts, you know, while the engine's running, and of course it should be, you know, closer to 13 for it to be charging. I probably have a spare alternator laying around somewhere. As a matter of fact, I'll go take a look at that engine, the 4.5 engine, and see if it's the same alternator. Power windows don't work. I'm pretty sure it's those fuses over here that are under the hood, and I checked the voltage on both sides, and I don't see any kind of voltage going to them. So not sure exactly where the problem is. It may be the window switches in itself. Not clear to me just yet. So exactly how that wiring works, I'll take a look at the schematic and see what's going on. The air suspension isn't being raised by the power of the engine, right? So the engine suspension pump isn't raising the suspension, but you know, anyone who knows that the 300SELs, they have a tank over here. Okay, so that's actually good. That's good information. So that tank, while the engine was running, was pressurizing, and you know, if I was to get underneath the tank and press that release valve, it would release air. So right now I just checked it. I've only shut the engine off maybe no more than 10-15 minutes ago, and that relief valve doesn't have any kind of pressure underneath it, so that tank is completely empty. So what does that tell me? That tells me that there's a massive leak going on over here. So I've got to check all these hoses. I'm not sure exactly you know, what goes to that tank, what goes out, but there's obviously a leak, and that's what's causing the suspension not to raise. So I've got to figure that all out. Best way to do it is just really, you know, put the car back up in the air, use soapy water and a spray gun, and try to find the leak. I may end up moving it to where the 6.3 is, because that's a 4-post lift. That should be fun, because moving that car is more fun than you can imagine. What else? So I fixed this. It was just basically a missing screw. Once I put the screw back in and tightened it back down again, it moved the handle, you know, more this way, and allowed it to make contact with the door. So that's fixed. At least one thing's fixed. So this is my spare 4.5 litre engine, and looks like that alternator is exactly the same alternator that I have on the other car. So I have a spare alternator. You know, I'll swap this out. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, I'll go and order a new one. I also have a complete 6.3 front end. You know, the subframe, brakes, engine, transmission. This was taken out of the white car. I know the transmission's not good. There's something wrong with it. The linkages won't move. It's somehow locked up. But the engine did spin over, and I was able to start it with ether. I just couldn't get it running with the regular fuel, you know. So I ended up basically swapping an engine out, and I have this one sitting here. I may end up, you know, if I can get this green car running, I may decide to sell my white 6.3. And if I decide to sell the white 6.3, then I won't need the engine. And I also have a spare a vented disc rear brake rear axle from a 6.3 that's sitting over here. It's the early 69 one with the vented disc, so I know it's rare as chicken lips. I'll probably let that one go as well because I don't need it. All depends on whether I can get this thing, you know, going. But that's pretty much it now. I'll post this on the W108 Facebook group so that you guys can see the update. I do have some questions, you know, where to source parts from, alternative parts, unless it's, you know, I have to go to the dealer, But I can't find airbags anywhere. They seem like they're no longer made. So maybe you guys can provide some advice. Alright, thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye.